Are we, I forget, are we on or off today?
On what?
Well, tariffs, of course.
Oh. Didn't it change like 4 times yesterday?
Yeah, like I have to check my watch to see if the tariffs are on or off,
There was
right?
a tariff, and there wasn't a tariff, and then there was a tariff, and I don't actually know.
We have lights on the wall of the store. If it's green, there's no tariffs, and if it's red, that means we're in territory.
Yeah.
Things are being tariffed as we speak.
I actually don't know. Yeah. I think it's just card games in our store, maybe. I have no idea. I guess I'll get an invoice from a distributor.
So for those of you that aren't paying attention to international
anything
that's going on in the world right now, maybe you're fortunate and you're just in some small neck of the woods in Europe, or like I don't know if you're in Australia or something. You're just kind of like, they have to pay a lot, but there's still
tariffs there too. Yeah.
They have a lot of tariffs. They've been living with tariffs. Their tariffs are always on.
So maybe before we continue, we need to apologize to the Kiwis and Australians.
I'd like to say sorry.
We said Americans pay the most for Warhammer. We were very wrong. And I knew that I was wrong. I just forgot.
Momentary lapse.
Sorry.
Let's all have a moment of silence for our Australian brothers.
And Kiwis,
sisters.
And New Zealanders.
That have to pay exorbitant amounts for Warhammer because of the Pacific region and protections they have on there.
Yeah.
But, well, I figured this is such it's so topical, obviously being Canadians, if you didn't already know.
Right in the thick of it, yep.
We are, this is something we're literally talking about almost every day, every hour with people about what's going on. And if you're American, obviously you're on the other side, you're seeing this in the news constantly as well. Mm-hmm. And probably the rest of the world is just looking on with some sort of what is happening.
There's a lot of why is this happening.
Yeah. And hey, we feel the same way. We're sort of like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
What's going on here? So one of the things that strikes me, moving to like the business side of things, is just how few people know what's actually going on.
Yes. And we get this a bit even here when there's election cycles here or during COVID times. There is, it really hits you that the average person really doesn't. And why would they? Maybe is a good argument because they're so busy just running their own lives, or whatever, or distracted with just trying to stay alive.
That does increasingly cost and take a lot more work than it used to.
So I take for granted that I do read a lot or consume a lot of different angles of news and what's going on, and I'm just generally interested in that. And so I usually have some ideas, but there's a lot of people that are like, they just get the sensational headline and they're just like, oh, this thing or that, and you're like, and they don't really dig deeper because unfortunately most news we get doesn't really explain anything.
No, it's all bits, like 30 seconds,
they're
40
very
second
small
bits,
so they don't really go into. So thank you for a lot of people commented like, well, how's the tariff thing and this and that. And something to remember is it's really going to depend on whether the Canadian government is going to pick things that we sell in our store as sectors that they will retaliate with. So just the U.S. putting a tariff on let's say blanket on everything doesn't necessarily mean Warhammer will cost us more.
So
whether our government then puts a reciprocal tariff on that.
The tariff affects goods entering the United States.
Yes.
So it's actually American taxpayers, the consumers that would be fronting the bill for that stuff. It's the retaliatory tariffs that would actually drive prices up here as well, right?
Yeah. So,
but there's an interesting element to it that like I hadn't realized originally, that because these things are all like really hyper like legal jargon and like targeted.
Yes.
It actually has a lot to do with where the products are made.
Of course.
So one of the really interesting things, at least for now, it does seem like things like Warhammer, because they're manufactured in the UK. Luckily, this is one of those things where you're just like, wow.
They keep ass backing in the luck.
Holy cow, man. They are like the fact that they are a vertically integrated company, which is so rare these days, and they do all the manufacturing themselves, has saved them again.
Like, and people that didn't realize the last, like from the other crazy, it was the December to February, there was a tax break, and it included Warhammer by some crazy fluke. So Warhammer was going, and Pokemon was both going to the absolute moon here
in Canada. We had a crazy.
It was tax free in Ontario for a while. We were like, what the heck?
What in
and then we look at Atomic Mass products, and it's like the same product, but it says 14 plus on the box. So, no tax free.
No tax free.
And they're just anyway, that's a segue.
But so you have the situation where they've really lucked into the situation because right now all the goods entering Canada for Games Workshop go through the U.S. first, and as things stand right now, it looks like even if there are full tariffs on, there will be no additional tax on those just because they're manufactured in the UK. Whereas other companies, Atomic Mass Games, unfortunately here, because those things are produced and made in China, they will have a tariff.
Yes.
Applied to them.
So they'll come in and then they'll get tariffed on the way in.
How crazy is that?
Potentially on the way out if they're
That's now going to make them less competitive, even less competitive.
That's
right.
Yeah, that's not we did not get a break
because one of the ways that these smaller companies are still compete. You can argue still trying to compete with Games Workshop for any market share essentially at this point is by outsourcing production to China. For it's relatively inexpensive compared to doing it themselves.
Yeah,
and then they're able to either deliver a product that's less expensive than Games Workshop or deliver a product that's close to the quality for close to the price and have some sort of margin built into that for them. But the tariff kind of makes that much tougher, right? So we're
who doesn't else care? Trench Crusade.
Oh man, no kidding, eh? That direct-to-consumer model's looking pretty good. Yeah. You can't tariff my printer; it's on my desk.
Tariff what I'm printing. We didn't start a clock again, so.
Oh yeah, well,
if you're wondering why this video just cuts off randomly, you'll know why.
It's been around 5 minutes.
It's been around 5 minutes.
We're so professional here at Lords of War.
Yeah. We're so excited to talk about tariffs and Trench Crusade. And all those Trench Crusaders they'll be the kings of their castles when all the hobby stores close and no one's made any money.
Ooh. We made a bit of money off Trench Crusade.
We do, luckily. We sell some paints.
People are
a few paints.
Excited to paint their miniatures.
Speaking of paints, virtually none of that is affected because, again, it's all made
it's funny?
Elsewhere. It's not made in the U.S. or it doesn't even come goes to Canada.
This is kind
Spain
of ironic, though, that the whole point of this, this to get political Chris is showing up here for a second.
That's a side channel. Yeah.
Here come the pamphlets. So the whole point of the tariff thing is to drive manufacturing back to where they are. But because all these things that just in the hobby world, it's kind of funny. Nothing's really made in the U.S.
No.
Nothing's really made in Canada. We import almost everything, and it does show there's a bit of a disparity there, obviously, but the tariff alone isn't going to change that. Putting a tariff on, the fact that all these things have dodged the tariff, first of all, doesn't help.
No.
If there was a massive,
if
there was a massive tariff on GW products, for example, some of the companies might have to start thinking maybe do we set up a warehouse in Canada or in the U.S. So they already have a warehouse in the U.S. But do they have to start producing miniatures in the U.S., right?
I have answered a few people that I was in the absolute weird worst case where Games Workshop, let's say, was affected. They could very easily, if they so chose. They would probably, I think likely the first thing they would do is just ship directly from the U.K.
For us.
Because they already send web orders and things straight over. And then long term they would open a warehouse again. And they used to be a company in Canada with their own branch and office and accounting and warehouse. I believe they still have bank accounts here, so and are still technically a corporation in Canada. It wouldn't be difficult. They would just really have to.
I guess it doesn't solve the manufacturing part though. So still would be made there. So I don't know how much it would help.
Well, we would have to put a tariff on UK, which I don't think we will.
No, I don't think so.
We still love the king or something or whatever.
Yeah, even though he doesn't stick up for us anymore.
I mean, he can't actually do anything.
No, that's true. It's true. Yeah, he's definitely shown that to be the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry,
UK people.
Yeah, it's a weird time. As a small business, you're, just normal times when everything's kind of hunky dory. you already have enough sort of on your plate where you're kind of like balancing each week, like what's going on with this? Like, are we going to make enough money here? Or like, let's get all this stuff right. And then these sorts of things that luckily don't happen too often. Like this is pretty unprecedented territory for us.
I don't know, Chris. It's been a bit of a roller coaster the last
I suppose you're right.
almost decade.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
We rolled through like
I quickly forget those things.
COVIDs and floods and tariffs that we like. Things are going well, and they're like, now we gotta screw this up for you somehow or whatever.
Absolutely.
You can't just make it like a. You can't just make a buck this year. I'm sorry. Even Pokemon, we're making a buck on. There's no Pokemon though.
There's no Pokemon. Can't get Pokemon.
Can't give it to you.
Can't get any.
Yikes.
Can't get any.
Can't get any. Won't get any.
But just to say, like things for small businesses, like our little hobby shop, all the ones out there are already tough. Like when things are kind of going well. These things just kind of add so much chaos to things.
Even just the questions.
Like
it's all the time. It's people have this like you said, what you started in the video is there's no one knows, and even like you and I think try and figure it out. Comb through the actual documentation and official things.
I couldn't get an answer on March 1st when the tariffs were supposed to take effect.
Yeah.
I couldn't get an answer from. I was talking to GW. I was talking to some of our suppliers, and they're still figuring it out too. So I went.
How could they give you an answer when literally it's so fluid that things will be stated and rescinded within this, and then stated again and rescinded again within a 12-hour period.
There's like no tariff, then there's a tariff, and then there's a double tariff.
Well, it's because you're witnessing what would normally be an intense closed-door conversation in full public, which is just insane. Because because it has like real-world stock market things, like
don't look at the S&P 500
or any of those. It's insane. It's just, I don't know. It is bizarre times for sure. But what can we do? We're just kind of like,
and that's it, right? Like I think ultimately,
I think what's funny in the hobby sector or what we sell. A couple things. We're a little insulated because what we sell is like so niche that it's not on any like. It's not like oil or aluminum or something like poultry. So we tend to kind of get ignored in these little subcategories because even what was it the tax-free thing or something? It was really like mostly just, I don't know, I think they just lucked out that they fell into it, but they're usually not specified exactly in the documentation.
No, almost never.
Anyway, so
it's such a niche thing.
And then let's say like something like the models or it's funny if you're like it's the meme, right, with the guys being hung or whatever. It's like first time or whatever. It's like if like a tariff happened in Games Workshop, my boxes all went up another $5. People are like, well, it's March, I'm used to a price increase every March anyway. Like I don't know how much that would impact for sure, but I don't know. Sure. I feel like if you have the brain damage that caused you to consume so much Warhammer to begin with, like we all have, so if your bill this month went from $500 to $600, you probably will still buy that Combat Patrol. I don't know, right? Like that's the interesting thing about that part. Like we're already.
Yeah, I hope we don't have to find out.
No,
obviously.
No.
But you're right. Like there's a little bit of like, I mean, ask the people in Australia that are still consuming. Like it's like they don't have a choice, right?
Yeah,
and it's still price is always a matter of like, well, do you want it or not? This is what it costs, right?
You're not consuming Warhammer because it's this like incredible value thing that's like that's so cheap and affordable, and it's you're doing it because you love it and you're like deep into it and whatever. So it kind of is the way it is. If it gets a little more, I mean, there's always a graph that will show you at some point it just like the growth stagnates or even starts dropping when things obviously reach a certain price. But I don't know. I don't know if it would just stop.
I think the worst part of a price increase like that's driven by tariff is that increased price isn't actually going directly to like the people that make the product.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't go towards the store.
Yeah.
The consumer is just paying an extra tax effectively, and it's going to go to the government, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's ultimately that's the I'd say the main issue is that like no one's really benefiting from it necessarily.
No.
yeah. So I don't know. It's just to say like. It's like there's no really good answers in this video, but it's a very unstable time right now, and we're kind of like, no joke intended, like checking our phones every morning and just being like, oh, what's going on? I check the news like 10 times a day right now.
Just what
because I'm just like,
we're
what's
on,
going
we're
on?
off, we're on, we're off. Yeah, it's.
And where we are, we have like different levels of government all doing their own thing too to respond.
Yeah.
Which is creating more instability and interesting things that are happening. So
Yes. Yeah. Our premiers or governors, or what you want to call them, equivalents. They're because like. Yeah, all the provinces have their own dealings with different states and things, so they can. Yeah, so we've got our guy threatening to cut the power off and stuff like that. Apparently, it's kind of effective. Well, we'll see. I don't even know. It's not like I have control over this either. I just kind of like wake up and I'm like, oh, this is happening now. Okay.
We're just trying to sell toys to people.
I'm just trying to sell a toy.
Just trying to sell, like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, we're just trying to.
It's.
And I think it's worth saying too. Like, obviously, I think. Speaking for Canadians, like we've seen the poll numbers and stuff, like something like 85% of Canadians now have a negative view of America. I think it's important for our American friends to understand that that's basically directed towards your government and policy and like the idea, as opposed to like the people that live there. Like we very much don't hold those people accountable for what's going on right now.
Yeah, I've seen a lot about people being like, I'm going to travel to Canada. Should I be worried? I'd be like, probably not. Yeah. I can't imagine. Like,
I mean, we have wackadoodles just like any other country, but I mean, yeah. I was in the States last month when this stuff was already starting to cook. And for the most, like, I don't know. Like, people aren't talking about it. Business as usual.
Yeah.
We're going to Adepticon in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll be like among the American people. I don't know, I've always had a great time there.
Yeah.
I don't expect it to be any different this year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of noise, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A lot of noise. Yeah. So, yeah. TLDR, I don't know. We don't know. We'll find out.
The best thing you can do, obviously, like when these things are tough, there's tough times, you can talk to your local hobby shop. Just, I mean, ultimately, what can you do as a consumer is like just keep doing what you do, which is like support your local store.
Yeah, ultimately.
Be a good customer to them. Like, they're not asking for you to do anything above and beyond what you already do. You can't, but just keep showing up and supporting them, and that's ultimately all that you can ask for. Really.
Yeah, you still, if you like that store, just keep getting stuff and raise your concerns, and but. Yeah, it's funny. Like ultimately, like we can't get like none of this. Like Chris said, is made anywhere locally. Like this entire store would basically cease to exist if I had to source it locally. Just doesn't exist.
That's the absurdity of all this, right? Even if you're an American store owner, which we have some people that follow our channel and comment and give us great insights and stuff like that into their businesses. They would tell you too. It's like, look, we don't make any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like this is all imported, right? Like so, and it's not like that can change by flicking a switch either, right?
No.
Games Workshop isn't going to become an American company.
Nope.
They aren't. They're a UK based company. They've always been a UK based company. They dominate 80 to 90% of the miniature market. That's that, right? So if you have a hobby store that sells miniatures, you're going to have UK-based stuff on your wall.
Yeah.
I imagine like you could extend that probably to other things, right? Like certain markets are more dominated by things made in certain countries.
Yes.
Because that's what they've built up for years and years and decades.
They built it up, yeah.
And when we've had 50 years of globalization, that's been okay because you can specialize. You can have things that your country does. Yes. Germany makes great pencils.
Sure.
Airbrushes, like things like
and most of this paint is made in Spain for whatever reason.
Almost all of the paint we sell is Spanish paint.
Spanish paint. So, and to say like, oh, we'll just bring this, we'll manufacture paint in Canada now or something. It's like the market is so tiny for that. Why would anyone do that? Like,
It's,
like
it's
the only reason a Vallejo or AK works is because they ship all over the world. Like
that, and they have the Eurozone, which is like a free trade zone, right?
yeah, and there's like probably just more people maybe consuming their products in general, and because of the cultural reasons or whatever. But like, they might be okay, but they would take a huge hit too. Like
Sure.
like maybe maybe was you have like AK and MiG and Army Painters European and Vallejo, obviously, like maybe some of them you can't have all of them. Maybe like one or two would die and only one. You know what I'm saying? Like like there would be still an effect, but like just a random company making Canadian paint may not necessarily, and even if they get a bunch of LGSs in Canada, that might not be that big of a business still, like to justify the manufacturing costs or whatever. I don't know. And maybe they still have to import pigments and ingredients because we don't have them here. Like it's it's like very like it's we've had this, like you said, this like intense, like very intricate web formed for 50 years or more. You can't just disconnect it that easily.
On a small, like to shrink that down to your point, which is really well made, to a local level, it would be like decoupling our store from the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like we have this network of websites you can go to and order stuff from across Canada.
Yeah.
It makes your local shop, projects it out to the whole country, which honestly adds a lot of stability for a lot of small shops that sell niche products, right? And then if you decoupled that, the impact would be devastating.
Yeah,
like only local people can now purchase your items. It's like okay,
yes,
that's a much smaller market.
Yes,
yeah.
So yeah.
That's kind of where it is. It's an interesting topic. Obviously, we're trying to like stay out of the whole like getting too political about it, but ultimately, like the life is political. Like there's a lot of things that that affect you that are political. You have to pay attention to them, unfortunately. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this talk of tariffs. We hopefully
very boring video.
Won't have to cover it too many times more. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
But I'm also not optimistic based on how things are going.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be something we talk about maybe at least once a month right now. Oh, man. Well, if you guys watch us from outside of Canada, one way you can support us if you really enjoy watching our show is Patreon, which you can sign up for as little as $3 a month. And we're going to be starting very shortly some Patreon exclusive content too, which is going to be really good for our Patreon members that have been supporting us since for over a year now, which is cool. We're finally going to give them some extra value other than feeling good about helping our channel grow.
Yes.
So go on there, check us out. Otherwise, subscribe if you haven't already, because that's another way you can help us without spending any money. So take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.